Lemure is our next free unit, as you can acquire her and her shards through an acquisition quest similar to Corwell. This means that she is an 80 cost unit with no limit burst, but with Summer Elsorel coming this week and FF7 still on the horizon, can we afford to spare any visiore for this free unit? Let's take a look at her kit and find out. Lemure is an 80 cost dark unit with Time Mage as her main job. Her sub-jobs are Scholar and White Mage, so we can expect Lemure to be a support unit, looking to hasten your team but also heal them up. She also has many ways to shorten her own spell's casting time and raise her own survivability through the Scholar sub-job. So let's take a look at her TMR. It's a staff that gives 10% single target resistance, which is a fantastic option for any support or healer that isn't worried about dealing damage and just wants to stay alive. So Ayaka comes to mind as another unit that would love to wear this staff. Lemure's Master ability gives the standard HP and dark attack up for dark allies, but it's also going to grant a 10% AoE resistance for Lemure, and then again, that's really useful to keeping her alive and able to continue to support your units. There isn't much spectacular about Lemure's stats. Her 3,127 HP is high for a supporting mage, and her 474 magic stat is almost the same as Yuna's. However, she has 0 ways to buff her magic on her kit, which is okay because her job isn't to deal damage. So Lemure has 62 agility, which is pretty average nowadays, and then one bonus is that Lemure does get 6 defense from her Scholar sub-job. Taking a look at level 115 versus 120, the most compelling stat change for Lemure is magic. We see a 60 point increase here, but really the reason to take her to max level is going to be for her job level 25 Haste Thaga, because that's just the best EX upgrade on her kit by a long shot, so your hands are kind of tied there. Lemure's resists are not good, which is fairly disappointing because I'd love to see a more natural build for her to take advantage of her TMR and her Master ability. Her only positive resistance is magic at 10%, and the rest are bad. She has 50% resist to confusion and petrify, and also a 10% resist to silence, which is always welcome to see with mages. Let's take a look at her kit now, and I'm only going to talk about things that I think are important. So for passives, CT Change Null is always an important skill to mention because it makes sure that Lemure and any Time Mage doesn't cast haste on themselves, and that's very important for preventing her from getting stuck on a map hasting herself. Scholar's Knowledge is also very relevant here because it's going to give her a defensive buff to help her survive. But the most important thing to look at is the amount of casting time reduction that we can see with Lemure, which is 450 if she uses both her Time Mage and her Scholar passives. The advantage of this is that if she uses her White Mage sub, all of her big heals are going to only take 2 ticks to cast. So you can of course fine-tune Quicken cast as well for live action, but that's very specific. But the fact that your healing can be so quick, that's a major weakness to non-instant cast healers. So Ayaka has a little bit of wiggle room there because she has a limit burst that's an instant cast heal, but Lemure is going to be able to just pelt out Curadas and Curagas with no hassle at all. Lemure gets an upgraded slow counter at job level 22. This counter breaks attack and magic by 39%, as well as the regular 50% chance to inflict slow. Now I always say that slow is one of the most impactful status effects, so obviously this counter is powerful. However, my fear is that Lemure is just going to die instead. I think that the unit that kills her, they also have to be within 2 squares to be hit by the counter. So even if we have like a very beefy Lemure, I have a hard time believing this counter is going to see a lot of use. However, I still think it's the best one on her kit, and there is a possibility that you can build her sturdy enough, given that she will have this single target resist and also this AoE resist. Looking at her main kit, all the main staples are there. We've got Comet and Meteor for damage, and it's nice to see both on the main job. Quicken is there for access to use with any of her sub jobs, and we even have Stop, which is upgraded at job level 19. It gets an increased range, which means that she might actually cast this on auto. I mean, we saw Ayaka for the longest time would always cast Immobilize until we were able to turn that off, or people just didn't learn it. So I think that there's a chance that Lemure is going to be casting Stop on people, especially because it's such a far range, and that could be pretty crazy. I mean, we all lived through the Agrius period of being stopped by Judgment Blade, so it's definitely a powerful status effect. Her job level 25 skill is amazing. It's Tidus's Haystaga, but it can be cast at a range. So this is going to make it easier to share with your allies to cast it on them and plan around, whereas with Tidus, he's being drawn all over the map trying to use these buffs, and it's been a major pain in the butt sometimes. So this is going to be way better AI wise. So this is definitely worth going to 124. Haste is on Lemure's sub job, which makes it worth considering if she didn't have the job level 25 skill, but now I don't think you need to put on the Time Mage sub job at all, which makes it easier to go over to Scholar, let's say, because you get Law of Preservation, which is going to give you a defense buff for Lemure, and it's going to prevent defense breaks. You're also going to have Law of Speed Reading, which will give Lemure godlike casting times and a CT boost. So this skill is really great for approaching enemies as well. So for example, with Luelle, she often casts Law of Speed Reading and then jumps the turn order to go in front of one of the other units, and then can cast a big AoE Law of Geoabsorption or something to finish somebody off. Unfortunately, Lemure's not going to take advantage of this as an attacker nearly as well as Luelle will, but maybe this means that she can use some other buffs that you want her to use. Although, given that buffs are on a team and this is a solo cast, it's probably coming after she's already used her buffs, so it's really not as powerful here as it is on Luelle. I'd also like to mention Devitalizing Glint, which is a very powerful AoE. It has a big potency that also decreases healing power. So this is the most interesting attack on Lemure's kit, since her Scholar passive is also going to make it instant cast, and because its potency is so big. So its potential to hit multiple enemies is also intriguing. This skill is very powerful on Luelle, and the fact that it does come on this Scholar sub, it's a big deal. Then when we take a look at White Mage, it comes with all the big heals. We got Kurata, we got Kiraga, we have, Kira, Asuna, all this stuff, but we don't have Regen, which is okay. That's not a huge deal for me, but it's nice. And then we don't have Full Life. So that's a bit of a bummer. That would really, bump her up a level in terms of her usability, but still having Kurata and Kiraga, that's pretty good. And then of course, we just want to clarify that because Lemure is an 80 cost handout unit, she does not have a limit burst. I'm going to compare Lemure to Ayaka, and the main thing that you're seeing here is that Lemure has the possibility of becoming way more defensive than Ayaka, and not just against attack scaling moves, but against magic scaling moves as well, because of the resist, the AoE resist, the single target resist. But you give up the full life, the regen, and the healing limit burst, and that's all very impactful. Let's look at the pros and cons of Lemure to see if she's worth building for your account. So pros, she's going to have the single target and AoE resist to help against all damage no matter what it is. She can deal with it. She can actually stack 33 defense without any gear or any espers if she uses her Scholar skills, both the passives and the active skills. And then Haystaga is going to enable 2 carries to crush your opponents, and Quicken will let you finish the job. So if you are someone that tunes your AI in a certain map, any given map, then she's going to really enable some pretty cool plays. And then finally, the fast casting times. It means that the White Mage healing might be relevant. Actually, I'm going to add one more thing to the pros list. It's that Stop has a lot of potential, but that's only if the AI can use it wisely. So on to the cons. Even with the defense and the single target and AoE resists, Lemure doesn't look that sturdy. Her lack of magic buffing and AoE attacks means that you shouldn't really count on her to pitch in damage, but if she is, then Devitalizing Glint is probably your best bet. And then no full life on the White Mage sub really hurts. Finally, her job level 19 and job level 22 EX skills are pretty underwhelming, but I am holding out hope for Stop. It's tough that the best skill, and really the most important skill, is just on the job level 25, giving you no choice at this time but to go for it if that's what you want to do. So how good is Lemure? I think she's a very interesting unit. I think that there's a lot of manual and auto applications for her, and I think that honestly, it's best to slow build her. With FF7 around the corner, with Summer El Sorel out now, your visiore is just better spent on more powerful units. And with that said, I think Lemure has a very fun kit, and I think a lot of players are going to get a kick out of her, but that's whenever they are able to build her. That's going to be it for this video. Hope it was useful for you, and if it was, you can let me know in the comments, or you can join me on the Mysidia Gaming Discord in the War of the Visions channel. And then otherwise, I'll see you in the next video, so please be sure to subscribe so you can see when that comes.